live.
Yes. Hey, everybody. Well, I'm Reggie Madison.
Hey, I'm Tamara Slocum.
We're from First Things First, and today we're going to jump into the world of gentle parenting with a special guest. I don't want to call him guest, really. We're just going to have a conversation, really, with Gabe Hannans. And hopefully I got it right. If not, he'll correct me when he gets on. Also known as the Indomitable Black Man.
I'm so glad that you said that because I have a hard time pronouncing Indomitable. Indomitable Black Man. So excited. If you haven't checked out his Instagram, you have to. It's amazing. He's so relatable. You guys will love him. Seriously.
And trust me, who doesn't have parenting issues or challenges?
Yeah.
Right? Like we all do. And it is a source of conversation. I've got 7 kids myself.
Yes.
And so from 16 years old down to 3. And
yes, 7 guys. Yeah. 7 kids. I only have 3, okay? But I have 3 girls, and one is 7, 5, and 2. Well, she's about to turn 3 this weekend, actually.
Oh, cool. Congratulations.
Yeah.
And so my joke, and I think he's on, my joke with ours is that we've tried all the different parenting styles like out there. We've hit several different ones. It's funny within itself. Let's see. Is he on?
What? Maybe. There we go. Hey.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm great.
I'm Tamara Slocum. I'm the brand and creative strategist here at First Things First.
Hello.
And she's going to tell us if she studies parenting like nobody's business.
I might be a big fan. I totally do the positive, gentle parenting. I've got 3 girls.
Wow.
So that is right up my alley.
Well, I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'm Reggie Madison. I'm the VP for Community Impact here at First Things First. What have I done? I've taught or coached parenting skills, marriage skills, relationship skills, fathering skills, you name it. I've probably done it here. And so married for 20 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, 20 years, 7 kids.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ooh,
New.
So yeah, excited, man. Excited to get to rap with you for a little bit.
That'd be cool. All right.
Tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I am the Indomitable Black Man, also known as Gabriel, or rather, let's flip that around. I'm Gabriel, also known as the Indomitable Black Man. I am a ESC teacher, exceptional student education teacher for a middle school, and I'm actually going to be teaching English for the first part of this semester. I just found out this morning, so that's something. I worked as a registered behavioral technician for almost 10 years through applied behavioral analysis, which is where I learned most of my, child care information, modifying behaviors, skill acquisition, the works, learning how to control my own patience with children, specifically worked with children on the spectrum, kids who were very aggressive. I have stories. That's pretty much it. I just love working with kids. I've been doing it for a really long time. Yeah.
Well, cool. Good stuff. Well, so here's gonna be my role. My role, I get to play the role of moderator for this. Okay, so I'm really facilitating the conversation between the two of you a good bit. Okay. Now, having said that, as moderator, I get to make sure that we keep it real, that we hit, and so not just the great stuff about it, but also the challenges of gentle parenting, the concerns. I want to make sure we speak to the skeptics, as well as those who are trying to get this thing right.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
But let me start. Why is this important to y'all? And go for it, man.
Ladies,
Yeah, you go for it.
Okay.
Me too?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Well, I will say it's really important. When I had my first daughter, I just was kind of going based off of the parenting that I saw my sisters do, friends do. but it didn't, like, some things just didn't feel right to me. And I didn't know very much about different parenting styles at the time. This was 7 years ago. But I knew something didn't feel right to, like, punish my toddler for having feelings. But I was really scared that I was going to be a permissive parent. Like, am I going to, like, not give them, like, rules and boundaries? And I didn't know. So I started doing a lot of research, and then I just kind of stumbled upon this whole idea of positive, gentle parenting. And I was like, oh, this is exactly what I feel like. Yes, there's other people that believe this. Okay, I'm not going to ruin my kids. So I looked a lot into it. I studied the brain development of children and all of this stuff, and I just got so passionate about it. So that's really why it's important to me, is from that beginning of, like, I have no idea what I'm doing, to having 3 girls and being really confident in the way that I'm parenting them. So what about you?
So I actually got into it. I've always worked with kids. Like, in my family, we have a huge family, At any time there was a family function, the kids would come to me. The parents would just send the kids out to Gabe, and I'm overseeing all the little ones. And that was my life, babysitting, mentoring, whatever, kids. Then I needed a job in like 2016. I was currently homeless at the time, and I needed a job. And so I got a job working at my church's private school as a Bible teacher. And it was great, probably the best thing I had done. And I was going to school at the time to be a biomedical scientist, but yeah, right, completely switched. And my mentor, who was my theater professor, said, Gabe, I always saw you as a teacher. Why don't you pursue that? It was a free undergrad, basically. So I did that instead. But while I was going to school for that, I became a registered behavioral technician. So the first, well, I guess technically the second job I got out of homelessness was working as a registered behavioral technician. And I got my first kid in 2017. And this kid ran up and he had my whole heart. Like, for a second, he was a nonverbal child with autism, and he took my heart. I was like, okay, this is what I'm doing. And from then on, I started to see how I can modify children's behaviors without raising my hand or raising my voice. I cannot do that to a kid. I don't need to. My voice will only get loud if it's a lot of noise. But apart from that, my voice will not raise past a certain decibel, and I will certainly not raise my hands at them, and I will modify all of their behaviors. So even when he was kicking me in the chest, even when another 5-year-old backhanded me, even when a kid pulled out one of my locks, I had my moments where I wanted to be up here, but I kept it here because I was professional. And once I realized that I can do all of these things, it only just opened up a whole new world. It was like, wait a minute, why are we doing this? Where did this come from? And then it just sent me down a rabbit trail I've been on ever since.
Yes.
So for everyone watching, let's make sure that we're kind of operating from the same space. Because you said so much, I'm like, man, we can expound on like 20 different things you just said. What is gentle parenting?
Gentle parenting. There are 4 styles of parenting. There's authoritarian, which is that old school, I'm a bush in your head parenting. There is authoritative or gentle parenting. There is permissive, and then there's neglectful. With all of them, you have, I guess, a coordinate plane or a spectrum in which you have high responsiveness versus, responsiveness versus expectation. With authoritarian, you have high expectation, low responsiveness. That's basically, do what I said. I'm not going to help you get there. Just figure it out.
Right.
Permissive, you have low expectation, high responsiveness. I'm not expecting a lot from you, but I'm going to help you do that. Then you have authoritative, which is high expectation, high responsiveness. My expectation for you is to be up here. I'm going to help you get up there. And I'm going to teach you how to get up there. That's gentle parenting. That's authoritative parenting, respectful parenting, conscious parenting.
Yeah.
Different names, same
right.
principle.
So let me ask you this: you said something earlier? I was scared I was gonna be a permissive parent.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, essentially, I was scared of the pushback of not being able to teach without like that fear, I guess, but that didn't feel right to me. So I think permissive parenting, it's a slippery slope when people want to help your emotions and help your children, you know, like help with the emotional regulation, but they don't have boundaries. And that's what I was afraid of, not having boundaries.
What if people at times come at you with on misconceptions, right? Because admittedly, look, you hear the word gentle and you immediately think, I can't parent gently. Like parents need. And so, what are some misconceptions that you've either heard, addressed, known about, or people have come at you with about gentle parenting?
Man,
A lot.
there's a video that a guy said. He said, "Gentle parenting is for gentle kids," and I'm like,
No.
And I'm
"What?"
watching videos. You're not gentle.
I'm, so, full disclosure, I'm from the hood.
Yes.
And both of my parents were old school. I'm from Atlanta. I'm from the hood in Atlanta. And so the way I interact with other people is a lot different. Of course, I can code switch, but for the most part, if I'm talking to a kid, I'm going to do it very gently, but I'm also still ratchet and hood. So I had a student who was on my table, and I'm like, boy, if you don't get your behind off that table, what's wrong with you? Now, am I saying anything to harm him? No. Am I going to force him to get down, like snatch him down? No. Am I going to like write him up? No. I'm just, what are you doing? Have you lost your mind? Get your little butt down. I'm ratchet, but it works. And then the kids get down. But the misconceptions that I've heard a lot, there are so many of them, but it all really boils down to people thinking that it's permissive parenting. There's that immediate disconnect and association with permissive. And so people assume that it's white parenting, especially because I talk about parenting from a black and brown perspective. It's white people parenting. Your kid's gonna go to a school and your kids are gonna get unalived by police officers because they don't know how to respect authority. And that's not what gentle parenting is. Kids don't run over me. Kids don't disrespect me like that. Because I respect them, I model what respect looks like. I teach explicitly what respect, boundaries, consequences to their actions. I teach these things explicitly. They don't overstep their boundaries with me. I set expectations before we get into a situation. Hey, we're about to do X, Y, and Z. This is what I expect from your behavior. I expect to see it. If you don't do this behavior, X, Y, and Z will follow as a consequence. Do you understand? Repeat what I said. Okay, good. We're on the same page. Let's go forward. The idea that it's permissive only comes from the ignorance and the fear, the want to adhere to the old school way where you're thinking that you're getting an immediate reaction, an immediate extinction of behavior, but it's always short-lived, and it's only there to provide you with some sort of satisfaction, but it's not doing what you think it's doing. It's only setting your kid up to make the same mistake over and over again because you did not teach how to do it correctly. Gentle parenting does the opposite.
100%. I'm just thinking like it's teaching compliance in the moment, but it's not a connection. It's not an intrinsic change of behavior. It's not because I know this is right. It's because I'm scared of getting in trouble if I do it again. That everything you said is so good. Yeah.
So why is this whole connection thing so important? Because honestly, like when you look at it, I've just understood when it gets right down to it, the three kind of basic core foundational things, right? Connection, communication, and consistency, right? Like, and so with connection being such a foundational principle, and you know, you probably had a parent that once said, "Look, it don't care if you like me, you need to do what I say." Right? And we're kind of flipping it on the head. I'm not saying that we're trying to get from the light, but we are trying to get a connection. Why is that so important? Why is that so valuable?
You want to take it?
I mean, I think the bottom line is that relationships are built on connection, on trust, and you're going to have a better parent-child bond if, and especially in the future, if your child feels like they can trust you and come to you with their future issues or problems instead of running away and being scared of you. I mean, it's really, bottom line is that relationship, it's going to thrive when you have that connection. Do you have any other insights on that?
So whenever I would get a new client, or whenever I worked with a kid, before I would do any type of procedure that I would run with them, the first thing I focused on was pairing with the child. I need to understand how they communicate. And we have to recognize that communication is not one way. It's not really two ways. It's four ways. There's how I understand information and how I receive information, how I give information. And then there's the child's way of receiving information and giving information. So if I don't understand those four things, I can't have a good enough relationship with the child in order to instruct them or to correct them. It wouldn't make sense. But if I can understand all of those things and I can see each of those idiosyncrasies, why are you doing this? Why is this behavior your behavior? Why did I tell you this to correct it and you still are doing it? That means I didn't meet you where you understood. So I have to change that. That can only come through the connection that you have. Kids want me to work with them because they know that I have that connection with them. I have kids calling me dad. It's weird. But they do that. They scream for me across campus because I have that rapport and that relationship with those children. A kid can be in the middle of telling off a teacher, and as soon as I swoop in and take that child out and get them to calm down, they trust me enough to know that I'm not doing anything for their detriment. I'm only doing things for their benefit. I understand how they communicate, and they want to confide in me. That's the kind of relationship that every parent needs to be having with their child. That can only happen through that consistent communication and the rapport that's built, that trust. But it has to be done with boundaries. Just pressing all of that.
I'm gonna come back. I agree. I'm gonna come back to that boundaries thing in a second. Part of this whole dynamic, this whole shift, I think, is how parents see children, see their children, right? And do they see them as a person? Do they just see them as a child? And that kind of colors how you interact. And so talk to me a little bit about, when you see your philosophy on how do you see a child? How do you see them that makes you communicate that way?
I mean, I see children as basically still, their brains are still developing. And so I can't look at a kid or one of my kids and think like they should act the way that I act, because I'm an adult and I've had experiences that they haven't had. And to them, the world is this big new place and they're trying to find their way in it. And so I look at them as still learning. And so really taking into account where they are developmentally, recognizing the different stages of child development with the brain, and then just really, really trying to guide them in each of those areas, and knowing the knowledge myself, because if I don't know it, then I can't set my expectations appropriately with where they are.
Absolutely.
It's part of what you're saying is, with a child, I have to recognize I'm 30 years old. They're 5.
Thanks.
Yeah. They're 5. I can't expect them to take the knowledge that I have gained for 30 years and apply it,
right? Because
they haven't gained the knowledge. They're 5.
Right.
And so teaching them from that point, and seeing that they're 5 without the knowledge of a 10-year-old or 20-year-old colors how you communicate with.
Yeah, absolutely. And how I understand them and their behavior. And like we were talking about before, the connection, I wanted to say, the connection is so much about seeing and understanding and believing your child and giving them empathy, that oh yeah, I remember what it was like to be a little kid too. That's hard,
Absolutely. With that, we have to keep it 100. We have to keep it a buck. A lot of parents see their children as a pet or an accessory.
Mhm.
A lot of parents see their children as, look at what my child is like, a Barbie
Oh,
almost, where if there's any sort of autonomy, it's considered disrespect. It Kids are liabilities. They're not seen as fully developed humans that are capable of existing in society. And this is all the way up to teenage, like late teenage years, almost 18, where we're thinking that they're supposed to be operating as adults. These are really just little kids in big bodies, and we're expecting more from them than they have to give. I mean, in my community, all the time you hear, as soon as you turn 18, you get out of this house. But why? Do
Right.
they have the ability to be fully functioning adults? No, because you haven't taught them those skills yet. They're not going to survive, so you're setting those kids up for failure. So in a lot of cases, we don't see them as human. We see them as accessories. We see them as objects. We see them as pets that we can just, oh, look at, they're cute, then adorable. Oh, they're getting out of that cute phase. Oh, it's time for you to get out of my house. That's how we see them.
or
How?
I was just gonna say, or we are living vicariously through them. Like
Oh
we're
God.
pushing them through things that we didn't get to do when we were, and really pushing them in a direction or trying to make them what we want them to be versus who they are.
Exactly.
Gabe, do you see a lot of parents, and I joke in my line that I end up making this one statement. You don't really like your kids, do you?
I don't say it, but I certainly be thinking it, and I really want to be saying it sometimes, but I just don't. I don't think that they don't like their kids. I think a lot of times we're gonna keep it real again. A lot of parents have their children by mistake. If we're being real about it, a lot of people were not in the positions that they wanted to be in when they started having kids, or they didn't want to have kids altogether, and then they wound up with kids. It is what it is. We know it's a fact, and those parents still love their kids, but they're also wrestling with the fact that they have trauma. They didn't expect to have these kids. Now they have all of these burdens and all of this stress, and these kids are acting crazy like kids do, and they don't know how to deal with it. So it's not that I don't think that they don't like their kids per se, at least not in every case. I think there's so much going on in their minds that it's hard for them to take into account all of the things that are going on. And bills, relationships, work. Now kids, are my kids healthy? Are they getting their education? Are they going to wind up in the same position? All these expectations. I think it's just a lot for parents to understand. And then there are also some that just don't like their kids. I feel like those are few and far between.
No, that's real. And here's the deal. To gentle parent, you've got to be able to keep your own emotions in check.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, I don't say the hardest part, but I think it's the most important part.
It's the hardest part. I think, I mean, I'll just say it. That has been by far my biggest struggle. And when I applaud you when you said that you don't raise your voice above a certain decimal. I want to share this quick story real quick. It happened this morning. And I'm gonna I feel a little embarrassed, but again, we're keeping it real, right? My daughter, my 5-year-old daughter is in this stage where she just whines and whines and whines and cries about everything. And she's the middle child, so she's got that life's not fair. And I tell you what, I give her so much love and connection and attention, and it just never feels like it's enough because she just needs more and more and more. And I think birth order plays a role in it, and personality, and different kids. But this morning she cried. I hadn't had anything to eat yet. I was trying to get ready for the day. I was feeling a little stressed, so I'm hangry. I'm still tired. I haven't had coffee. I mean, I'm just oh my gosh, why does everything have to be this? Why do you have to cry? And I think people think when you gentle parent that you never lose your cool. And that's not true. That's not true, but this is what I did. She started crying and she hid, and I was oh, I just want to shake. I just want to shake her. And I went over to her, and I hate to admit this, but I kind of grabbed her out of her hiding spot, and she kind of looked at me like, "What are you gonna do to me, Mom?" And I said, "Oh, I just want to tickle you." And I just started tickling, and she started laughing. And that's how I regulated my emotions, because I really wanted to, like,
Tickle is not what you
no,
wanted
I
to
didn't
do.
want to tickle, but I don't hit my kids. I don't spank them. I don't do any of that, but I still get those urges. You know, I still want to do something with my hands because I'm angry or I'm frustrated or I'm overwhelmed. But I recognized when I was holding her in my mind, like, she's having a hard time. I'm having a hard time. I need to do something physical. I need to move my body. Let's tickle. She loves to be tickled. And it changed the whole game that morning. And it was a connection point. And so I think, like, that is something that we're not always going to get it right, you know, and our emotions are going to get the best of us. And if I hadn't tickled her, if I had yelled at her, if I had screamed at her to get out or something like that, and I had raised my voice, I think the biggest part of gentle parenting that I think has such a huge impact is making the repair after, is apologizing, is owning your own stuff and saying, like, I didn't handle that well. That's not your fault. That's me.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's, look, no one's perfect. And I think even as we talk about the gentle parenting and parenting in general, regardless of, no one's going to do it right every single time. And we do have to give ourselves some grace. Otherwise, we'll drive ourselves crazy.
Oh, yeah.
And so, you ever lost your cool, man?
Yes. But I'm an actor, so I keep it.
There you go.
I keep it in scene. A couple examples. One example: I don't like loud noises, especially early in the morning. I hate it. I don't like talking before 10 o'clock. If I'm hearing random loud noises, it triggers something in me. I don't want to talk. Don't call me. I'm not there. So I'm working at a middle school where class starts at 9 in the morning. And I love these kids. I really do. But these kids come in loud, smelling like onions because they've been playing football and all this stuff, and they don't know about deodorant just yet. And they're loud. They are loud. And I have a few little boys that are in 6th grade. Well, they were in 6th grade. Now they're going to 7th. And they will come in just loud as all get out. And my eyes switch. And I'm like, all right, y'all stand back outside because y'all know y'all not supposed to come into my class like this. So there were times where I would be in class. I cannot leave. It's 20 plus kids and they're loud and I'm triggered and I want to lose my cool. I can't lose my cool. So I take a deep breath and I go stand outside for a couple seconds and come back in. That's all it takes for me. I'm fine. But there was one time I had this one boy. I love this kid. I've been working with him since the pandemic. The shutdown happened. He became my client. Love this kid. I've worked with him ever since. He was 16. He was disabled. Well, he still is disabled. And I was his RBT. And this kid has seizures, and his seizures cause him to have maladaptive behaviors. And so one morning we're getting him ready for school. He does not want to go to school. He is not having it, but we have to get him on the bus. This kid reaches up in his anger and pulls out one of my locks. And my hair is very important to me. It's very important to me. And I'm looking at it on the floor and I'm like, and I knew in that moment, had I moved, I would have reached out to him and I would have harmed him. This is my career. Had I put my hands on him, I would have lost everything. So I took a deep breath and I walked out the house and I called my friend and I was like, girl, I was about to lose my job. But that's what it takes sometimes. We are human. We will not be able to keep it together 100% of the time. And parenting, childcare is not a perfect, it's a practice. And so in that moment when I was about to lose my calm, because I technically did, it would have been bad. but I did. I took a deep breath and I walked outside. We have to do the same thing sometimes when we can. Other times you got to just roll with the punches, just take a deep breath and keep it pushing. But yes, there have been times where I have
Yeah.
wanted to grab the
So,
kid
so,
and get him.
so in the hood,
Mm-hmm.
the expectation is that you go get a belt and you handle, right? Or that you get
Mm-hmm.
loud and you make sure that they feel your wrath,
Mm-hmm.
right? What's that about?
You said, what's that about?
What's that about?
Getting a belt and hitting your children?
Not just getting the belt. It's the
Making them
whole,
feel the terror?
yeah. Because it's
Don't
not
hate.
always about, sometimes it's just getting real loud. I mean, you know how it goes. People can go on 100 real fast and make sure that their child and everybody in the community know who's boss right now. And you
It
know
comes
that,
from two places.
yeah.
And I don't want y'all to hate me. I'm going to tell y'all where the two places come from. The first, humans, when they get triggered, will be on what's known as the continuum of arousal. This is the science behind it. That's when your amygdala activates and you are now back here in your reptilian brain and not in your prefrontal cortex. So the concept of you making rational decisions in a moment where you're triggered or you're escalated is not there. The same way when your child is having a tantrum, they're not hearing what you're saying, you're not going to hear reason while you're on the continuum of arousal. And if you come from a background where you've never had the ability to or the skill to self-regulate, you're always going to hit that every single time. You have to heal from that in order to stay off of that continuum effectively enough to make rational choices about what your child is doing and how you can help them. That's the first place. So trauma is usually the first place. The second place, this is where it actually comes from, slavery and serfdom. When parents get their belts, a lot of people in my community believe that white people don't hit their children. That is a lie. That is a lie. It is a fact that ritualistic corporal punishment for children existed in Europe for thousands of years. We can see a shining example of that with the Spartans and the Agoge, where they beat the fire out of those kids at the ages of like 7 on, and they trained them literally for war. If you want to breed a soldier that's capable of shutting off emotions and inflicting a lot of damage to people, do what the Spartans did. Beat the crap out of your kids, because that's what you're setting them up for. That didn't exist in Africa. That didn't exist in the New World. It only existed in Europe. And so when colonization spread those ideas, because they were beating their kids back then, you had the royal families, they did not whip their kids. They had a whipping boy. They would whip their serfs. They would whip their slaves. They would not whip their own, they wouldn't whip their own children if you were royal. They knew the implications of it. They would whip everybody else, and the poor people whipped themselves. So when it spread through colonization, that's what a lot of the Africans picked up. That's what a lot of the indigenous people picked up. That's what a lot of the Latinos picked up. Beat your kid to get immediate compliance. It served its purpose during slavery and colonization, where if you did not comply, you were unalived. But now in 2023, we don't necessarily have to do that same thing. And for anybody who's arguing for like, well, you know, there's still authority out here. What if my child gets unalived by police? I guarantee you every single black and brown person that was unarmed and unalived by police officers got their butts toe up as kids, and it did not save their lives. It's not going to save their life. It does not teach them anything. It does not prevent the murderer from murdering somebody else. That it doesn't work that way. It's all just in the hands of who's the one with the trigger. So that's where spanking, that's what that whole mindset comes from. Wanting to hit your kid, wanting to yell at your kid. That's not native to humanity, in as much as this science is there. Yes, you will want to yell. You want to, you know, end a threat, but you also have to recognize your child isn't a threat. Animals aren't just going to unalive their kids. I don't know what I can say on here, so I'm saying unalive. Parents in the animal kingdom aren't necessarily just going to unalive their kids for doing what they want to do. Like, you're not going to see a lion unalive a cub because it's crying or something like that. No, that's not how that works. Your goal is to protect your lineage, your progeny. Humans do that. It's weird by scientific standards.
Well, and I'm sure you've heard this as well. The parents who don't want to. It hurts me more than it hurts you. But you know what I mean? Like, I think that's almost worse because that's like a very intentional manipulation of you're responsible for my emotions and
Mm-hmm. You just make me so angry.
Yeah.
So I'm all right, and I know on the pre-show email, whatever, I said we were gonna hit children development, right? Mm-hmm. So I want y'all to read into the answers, but I'm gonna hit some practical examples, situations. Okay, I want y'all to give me a gentle parenting approach. Okay.
Yeah.
3-year-old tantrum in the grocery store. Gentle parenting approach.
But that's so hard because there's so many factors. I need to know all of the reasons why.
They wanted to get some gum or a candy. Pretty normal.
He's saying 3-year-old because I have a 3-year-old, so he wants me to answer.
Oh. Oh, this is good. What would you do in that situation? There you go.
Yeah, no, I know. Well, I would hold the boundary, and I would say, we aren't having the candy. I know that makes you feel really upset. And I would probably hug her and take her away from the situation so she can't see the candy. Try and help her, validate her emotions and say, yeah, you're really upset right now. Yeah, you're upset. Like, I hear that. I would be upset if I couldn't have it either, like, totally. And then if she still didn't calm down, then I would just leave the store. I mean, honestly, if it's causing a big scene, this is what I'm saying by, like, I need to know specifics because, like, if my other kids are going crazy, like, there's so many different factors. Yeah. But I think the bottom line is meeting any emotion as it's okay to feel that way, but here's the boundary, you know?
What's going on in the mind of that child?
They are, so you can make a ratio. You can compare it to a lot of the things that we deal with as adults. What the kids are going through is it has the same value to us as something like your kid wanting gum is like me wanting a new car, right? And you're bummed that you can't get this car. Better yet, out a promotion at work, right? You really want that promotion, like it's something you really want, and you can't get it because somebody's stopping you. Let's say Karen at work or something. She's stopping you from getting a promotion that you really want, and you have no idea why. She just does not want you to have it. You're not going to be happy about it. You're going to be pretty pissed off. We know how to control it better, but to a child, they don't. So at that point, the amygdala kicks in. I'm being denied something that I want. I don't understand. I'm confused and I'm angry, probably hungry too. So you're going to cry. But then as you realize that you really can't get it, you're going to start to escalate. You're on the continuum of arousal. Your prefrontal cortex is not making rational sense about anything in the world. It's going to do irrational things, hitting the people that you care about, grabbing things and throwing them. You don't know how to let out the emotions that you have other than by violently flailing your arms and screaming. That's what you know. That's what's happening in the mind of a child as that's going on.
Cool.
That's exactly right. You said it best. That was good. All right,
one more. 8-year-old keeps hitting their 6-year-old brother. A sibling, right? How are we going to gentle parent and modify that behavior? You get this one, Gabe.
Why are they hitting?
Oh, good question. Because they keep wanting, every time he wants to play with his toy, his little brother's got it.
Okay, so then that's when I walk up. Hey, why are you putting your hands on people? Do you like when people put their hands on you? What are you upset about? Oh, you want that toy. So you just walk up to people and hit them and that's how you get stuff? Okay, so why don't you ask for it? Okay, you asked for it and he wouldn't give it to you? Okay, how long have you been playing with this toy? All right, so he's going to play with it now, and we're going to find something for you to do with me. We can play something because he's gonna play with that. You're gonna find something else because we have to take turns. Oh, you don't want to take turns? Okay, well, look, how about nobody plays with it, and we want to play with something collaboratively together. Sometimes you have to incorporate so that they can do fun together, or if you're going to take something from them, give them something of equal or greater value in order to reinforce the fact that they're trying to share. But facilitating play together and collaboration, which includes things like communication, are all important things to do. So I would get them to like, okay, at the point I had this kid that I was going to adopt. He was so adorable, and his foster brother. And they were arguing about something. I can't remember what it was, but they kept arguing. I couldn't get them to stop. So then I started chasing them. And we played freeze tag. And those kids ran out of the building, and then they worked together to unfreeze. And like when I was trying to freeze them, they would work together to unfreeze each other. At end of like 5 minutes, they were best friends. They were inside and they were learning just like they had to. That's really how I would just handle that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I definitely agree. I can think of some times, because I've got a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old, so it's kind of roughly the same age, where if they're arguing, and it's not physical, and I don't have to like come in from a safety standpoint, but if it is just an argument over a toy that both of them want to use or something, I do exactly what you just said. But sometimes instead of like swooping in and figuring out for them, I also just kind of sportscast and say, this is what's going on. What do you guys think a good solution is? And let them try and figure it out. And it's hard. It's so hard for me to do because I want to go in there and I want to fix it and I want to tell them what to do. But I have seen it work so many times, giving them the opportunity to decide for themselves the solution creates
critical thinking.
So much more buy-in for what they're doing. Yeah.
So,
absolutely. I love that.
Before I kind of move to wrap it up, I want you to speak because there are a lot of parents. I do think it takes a certain level of mental and emotional stability, right? And you spoke to it. The amount of stress that some parents are dealing with makes it very difficult, right? And so what do you tell that parent? How do you get them to begin to move in that direction so that they don't really allow their own issues, mental health issues, whatever issues, to drive the narrative on how they parent? I'm gonna throw it on to you.
You don't take that?
You Gabe on this one.
Oh, me? Okay. Go get some therapy.
Thank you. I was that was my answer was that they need to do the inner work, and whether that's through therapy or whether that's through a trusted adult, trusted person who knows them, but just start figuring out what your triggers are. Like get to know yourself better so that you can be a better parent.
One of the things I tell a lot of the parents I work with is write a journal, keep a journal, not just a journal of like, dear diary. No, write down what you did that day, what your child did to trigger you, how you responded, what you can do better next time. That helps you see where your progress is going. That helps you notice where your triggers are. That helps you see where you're breaking off generational trauma that you may have had and replacing it with something else, or at least critically thinking about other things that you can do. But you can't really do nothing until you heal from that. You're going to keep going into the same cycles.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, we've run into this so much that if you go to firstthings.org, our website, or you click on the link in our bios, you'll see all kinds of free counseling resources because it does take work, right? And part of the reason we even do coaching now is to help parents do that work because there's, the stuff that parents have dealt with in their own childhood, and often they don't want their kids to be raised the way they were raised, and not necessarily something against their parents, but they do know something went right, right? And they want to have a certain amount of respect for their children and want their children to have respect for them. But we do what we know sometimes until someone comes along and shows us something different.
Yeah,
right?
And a lot of times I think that there's a problem and we are just looking at our children as the problem instead of recognizing what's actually the deeper issue is within ourselves, within how we were parented and how it all plays a role.
So check out the links in our bios or check out our website, firstthings.org. You can get some of those resources. I really hope this has been enlightening to anyone checking this out today. Look, 30 seconds. I'm gonna give both of you 30 seconds. All right, encourage somebody on parenting.
Oh, me first. Okay. Don't be afraid to mess up. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. We're all going to make mistakes. It's, are you learning from those mistakes? In those moments where you feel overwhelmed, are you doing what you can to learn from each experience? And can you just do differently next time? I'm not asking you to do better. Can you just do differently? You can. So do
Small
differently.
steps sometimes. Just some small steps.
Yeah,
I like that.
absolutely. I like what you said before about it's not perfection. It's a process. It's looking at where you started and seeing where you are now. And if your parenting journey if you have tickled instead of hit your kid, like that's a win. And take those daily wins and just keep going. And know that you're not alone. Like every parent faces this. Like you are not the only parent who is struggling or wants to do better. Like there's a community for you. And you got this.
And so I hope people hear that. Find a community, of
yes.
parents that they respect their children. They see the humanity of their kids. They respond. They interact. They like them. All those things.
Maybe they even love them.
Right.
That'd be great. Hey, oh my gosh, can you imagine?
Right. Well, Gabe, man, thanks a bunch. I just want people to encourage people to follow you on the Indomitable Black Man. Man, I appreciate it. And then also, I want people to follow us at First Things Family as well. And you can get all kind of parenting resources, tips. You can even get parenting coaching if you would like. And so, thanks a bunch, Gabe. This has been amazing. I love
You're so welcome.
Let me just say,
thank y'all so much for having me.
Yes, like I have enjoyed this so much. Thank you so much for keeping it real. And just for everyone who's watching this will be on our Instagram newsfeed. So check it out, replay it, share it with a friend. And I really hope that we can do this again. I would love it.
Would love that. I'll reach out to y'all and we can plan something out.
Please. Okay. Thanks.
All right.
Take care, man.
Have a good one.